My name is Jacqueline Johnson, and this is my audience today. Today I will be discussing cults in America. 2 to 5 million Americans have been involved in cultic activity, according to Mark Langan. 2 to 5 million Americans is much more than I would have ever thought. Cults are extremist groups that manipulate loyalty and are run by power-hungry individuals. Cults have been around for centuries all over the world, and America is no exception. I'm going to talk today about how cults work and how prevalent they are in America. I'm going to explain how cult leaders take advantage of vulnerability, which are mostly young individuals who have nowhere else to look but the serious crimes that they commit for the greater good of their society, and how cults associate themselves with the Bible so they can justify their actions. I have researched and spent my time to find what I believe are the most authoritative sources to present the information to you all. Let's first take a look at how cult leaders take advantage of young people, despite their extreme views. According to Mark Clayton and Alexander Marks, in their article, Why People Join Spiritually Abusive Cults, cults prey on individuals who may be new in an area, have little to no support system, and who feel like they are an outcast to everyday society. Leaders have a sense of changing vulnerabilities to fit with someone else's past. They find out about information about an individual and create a story in which they can connect with a new recruiter. For example, if a member has lost their parents, a cult leader could create a story in which they experience the same type of loss to create a bond with those who they recruit. Those who are struggling to find out who they are presented with an invitation to explore options, and they cling closely to it. Those who feel lost are looking for a purpose, and when they are presented with an opportunity to be involved in a family, they are overjoyed and take extreme loyalty because they find that someone is finally paying attention to them. Someone who is new to an area might not even be aware they're attending or interacting with cult members. People new to an area are trying to make new friends and establish the friend group. And they pledge their loyalty to the cult without even knowing. But everyone who is recruited to a cult is not depressed or suicidal. Many cult members are very intelligent college graduates who hold prestigious jobs. As written in Mark Clayton and Alexandra Marks' article, peer pressure is the most serious factor in deciding to join a cult. If a friend is doing it and is seriously involved in it, they will try to persuade you to join, telling them of the attention they are getting from other members or the meaning their life has because they are living for something. Now that we have discussed how someone can become part of a cult, we will look at what illegal cult activities consist of. A large factor of being a cult member involves your loyalty to a cult leader and the chapter which you are involved in. And the crime they commit can be as common as drug use or as heinous as murder. A name which might be familiar is Charles Manson. And according to the author Andrew Acheson, who wrote Charles Manson and the Family of Sociology Theories to Manipulate Murder, Charles Manson was a cult leader in California who had a very large following of people who he called his family. Manson's family grew because of what people thought he stood for, which was rebelling against the man. It wasn't until the followers were actually committing murder, till the message was clear that it was much more than sticking it to the government. Manson's family killed 7 people, including a pregnant woman named Sharon Tate, her brother, and her husband. After Tate was dead, they took her blood and wrote "pig" on the wall of her home. The murders committed by Manson and his followers kick-started what they thought was the Second Coming and named Helter Skelter. Charles Manson was able to brainwash his followers into thinking that he did know when the Second Coming was and that the events would summon it. Manson and his followers showed how devoted cult members can be and how sick and twisted cult leaders are. Crime is always involved in cults. It is a part of their makeup. And as written in Tom Landon's article, alleged cult leader Victor Bernard, charged with molesting maidens. Throughout history, many cult leaders have represented themselves as the living flesh of Christ or Christ on earth, and used that to their advantage, to sleep with all the young women in their cult. Some may be willing to sleep with the cult leader, but others are not. These are girls who are still children and who are being forced into sex. Victor Bernard was a leader of River Road Fellowship cult in Minnesota. Bernard had 10 women who he would sleep with, whom he called his maidens. The ages of his maidens ranged from 12 to 24. Pedophilia and rape are very common in cults, and it is just another way for the cult member to control a cult leader to control their members. Cults are not in any way limited to these few crimes I have discussed today, but these are just a few terrible examples of what they are capable of. We have now discussed how cult members get new members, what crimes a cult commits, and now we are going to look at how cults justify their actions. Cult leaders appeal to the people's need for something to live for. We are all here for a reason, and some people are lost and wondering what that reason is, and that's how they get them in the first place. Cult leaders make exclusive claims like being Christ in the flesh. They claim that they can predict the second coming like Manson did, and they give power to those who are following them. The cult leaders claim that it is all for God's plan and that the pain and suffering is ultimately going to pay off in eternity. Almost every cult associates themselves with the Bible or some version of it. They take passages out of context and blow them into proportion and put new meaning on them. A common name that is associated with Christianity is Westboro Baptist. Noah Michelson writes in his I Love Westboro Baptist, and This Is Why You Should, too, article, writes that Westboro Baptists picket soldiers' funerals because they do not believe in war. They picket hate words towards homosexuals and picket about evil that America allows. Westboro Baptist is a cult. They shun those who have different opinions and use scripture out of context for personal vendetta. It is sad to think that people who are not Christians associate with Westboro Baptists about how all Christians are. Now that we have discussed the 3 points of today, we are going to wrap it up. We have discussed how cults prey on vulnerable people, how cults breed crime, and how cults associate themselves and even call themselves Christians. In conclusion, cults in America might not always look as radical as Manson's following, but will always be filled with wrong teaching and evil. They may lead a member through lies and prey on individuals' vulnerability. They commit crimes and see them as justified action, and they believe that they are Christ's followers. Cults are not a foreign problem, not just a foreign problem, and they are a real problem here in America. We should be aware of the prevalence of cults in our country so we can stay on top of things and pray for our nation. Thank you for your time.